You are listening to the Pencil and Paper Podcast Network. Visit pencilandpaperproductions.podbean.com to find more great podcasts.
Welcome to the Palace of Megapixels. This is Super Mega Crash Brothers Turbo!
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Super Mega Crash Brothers Turbo.
Holy crap, man.
I'm your host, Stephen White. With me, as always, is my co-host, Lacey Finley.
Well, happy Monday.
We're back to normal things.
Sort of, yeah.
Sort of.
Back
Not
to
normal
games,
life.
At least.
Yeah.
Normal life is never happening again.
I don't think so.
I think we're in it now, people.
You know, the worst part about it is, I've told you before, I don't know if I mentioned it here, but my brother and his wife got COVID.
Right.
And they got over it. Which, by the way, I don't know if I've announced it here. I'm going to be an uncle.
Ooh.
And I'm going to be the uncle to a nephew.
This is the first
I've
boy?
never been officially an uncle to someone.
Just a bunch of nieces?
Well,
I see
just
what you
in
mean.
general, you know. I mean, it's always been my wife's, you know.
Oh, like blood.
Sibling.
I see what you're saying.
This is my first
by
blood.
marriage.
Yeah, I'm an uncle by blood now.
There you go.
So I'm gonna have a little nephew running around. How about that?
Well, congratulations.
Thank you. But it's more
To
congratulations
you breeders out there.
Yeah. Hey, I never thought he'd get there, but there he is. I mean, it's his life, and I applaud him for whatever he chose to do. But anyway, what I was saying is my daughter, I don't know if I mentioned that, but she has COVID. She got diagnosed.
Still?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
She got her tests back at the end of July, and she messaged me yesterday. She got tested again and still has it. She says that the only thing bothering her is she has a constant headache. And she doesn't know what to do. And I gave her some ideas that might help alleviate it some. But I told her, I said, just try to take care of yourself because she could have it for God knows how long. You know, because I looked it up. They said it could last up to 10 weeks in some cases that they've seen. And I said, hopefully that's not you.
Right.
But just be aware, there have been cases that have lasted for weeks.
Does she still have fever and everything?
No, she said the only thing that's bothering her right now, she just has this constant headache. And that it worries me.
Well, I guess out of all of the symptoms, but still, yeah.
And I told her that. I said, you know, I want you to take care of yourself because I don't want to come back in a few weeks and tell you something tragic's happened, you know, and it does. It concerns me because this shit it could just be messing with her and then before you know it, snap of the finger. And I don't like talking like that.
Right.
But,
and who knows, it could be like stress related too, because I could imagine just the amount of stress she's going through, that it can keep perpetuating that headache over and over again. So maybe hopefully, if we could just get her to calm down, I don't know.
Yeah, and the worst part about it is for her, she's been taking these classes for a job. I don't want to go into details because honestly, I can't remember all the details. So I'll leave it vague. I don't want to lay it out. But anyway, she's been taking classes to take a test that will get her a job, a better job than what she has now. It would be a great career move for her. She says she wants to do it, but she has to take a test, and it would have to be a physical test, not an online test.
Oh, no.
So she can't do that.
Why can't it be online?
Because it's a test. I mean, people can cheat.
Well, okay, but the only reason why I mentioned that is because the same thing happened to me, like at the restaurant when they thought I was going to like move up into management. There was some like food safety thing that I was supposed to take, and it was supposed to be like an 8-hour long class and a test. But the other option was you could do it online, but the person was there online with you, like how you and I would be Skyping right now, but you actually have to take the camera and show them your PC space and like down around on the desk to ensure you have no notes or anything up. And you have to screen share and actually take the test that way to prevent people from doing that.
That's pretty fair.
Nah, I don't know. I'm sure people would still figure out a way to be clever enough even in that situation. But I'm just saying, like, they were pretty serious about it, man, for something like that. So,
But I mean, that's fair. I mean, I think that was
especially
a smart move.
now, I feel like try to work with it, as best you
Sure.
can.
But she was supposed to go take it in 2 weeks, so hopefully within that time frame it will pass and she can go take her test, because she's got to travel all the way to Chattanooga to take the test.
Oh wow!
And that's a drive, but she has been having to delay it because of this as well.
Right.
So it's hindering her progression in life, so to speak.
Right, man.
So I hate it. I hate COVID. Fuck COVID.
I know, right? I'm done with it, obviously, and apparently more people are than they should be. Even I don't know. I'm just kind of sit here and I guess wait it out. I feel like so helpless. There's nothing I can do.
And I guess on the flip side of it, I try to find some positive bits about it.
Sure.
Like take a look at some of the things that we've gotten because of this. Not saying they're great, but how life has had to adapt to how everything's going. We're getting Comic-Con events and stuff like that. We've got a few we'll mention a little bit later. Everyone's getting to see it now, as opposed to, groups or little rooms and stuff like that, and everyone being isolated. Movies coming straight to streaming, which I know is a boon to the theater market. I still want to go to a theater.
Hopefully they survive it.
Yeah, I really do. I still like the theater experience for certain movies. There are movies that I'm like, I want to go to the theater and see that. Big screen, big sound, everything. But there are some movies that you'll see, like, let's use The Invisible Man for a great example, okay? When that movie was advertised, it came out, I was looking at it and I said, you know what? I really want to see that. I really want to see that. But at the same time, it wasn't a movie I was aching to go to the theater to see. You know what I mean? Because it didn't seem like that type of movie to me. It wasn't the big spectacle. And I know that we should probably go and support these movies if we want more of those movies. I get that. But I do have a very particular movie type that I want to go to the theater to see. Because if I'm going to have to sit around a bunch of people I don't know
Right.
and deal with them, I want to make sure that it's going to be worth my while. Because I've gone, when I went to see Avengers Endgame, my God, this guy sitting next to me, I just wanted to slap the shit out of him. Because he just was so expressively loud about everything, and it wasn't in the right way. It was just like, what? Oh, oh man.
So really not adding anything of value anyway.
Yeah, it's just like, dude, keep that inner monologue
Right,
to yourself. Please, you don't have to vocalize it. For Christ's sake, I'm sitting right next to you, man. So, and yeah, I'm that guy. You might be one of those people. I'm sorry. I can't help it. But The Invisible Man, it was a movie I really wanted to see, but I wasn't rushing out to the theater to see it. Then it came to video on demand. Immediately, it's still in theaters, whatever, because all this stuff happened around that time. And I was like, here's $20. That's what I would have spent at the theater. I'll spend it right now to watch your movie because I want to see it, but in the comfort of my own home.
Right.
I'm okay with that. People got pissy about this Mulan thing because Disney's going to offer it up on their Disney Plus service for $30. But keep this in mind. I think this is a detail a lot of people miss. It's yours.
And if you're a family, you're still going to have to pay. Let's just say you're a family of 4. That's 4 tickets, which I would assume, especially in today's day and age, is going to be more than $30 for 4 tickets. I would say most places 10 is about maybe even the cheapest on a matinee price anymore.
Yeah,
I mean, insert your city here. It can vary, wildly, but yeah, I think people are just like, it's so weird how we just forget all those little details about how much we would spend going out and never paid it any mind. I mean, sure, you might have been like, yeah, that sucks. I just spent $50, but you did it. And then you're going to complain you're getting it for $20 for all 4 of you to sit around on your couch and provide your own snacks.
Yeah.
I mean, we all snuck them in anyway. Let's be real, but no.
But yeah, I mean, the model of it is how I view it. You know, if I'm going to take my family to go see this movie, and it's not just going to be me and my wife, how is that going to affect my wallet? So if I'm paying $20 to go to the theater to see this, that's what I'm technically going to be spending, give or take. Mm-hmm. So why not?
At least, yeah.
I'm giving you the same amount. I mean, it's not like the theater's getting a cut of that.
But that's nice that you said they're getting to keep it, because I have heard some where they're charging $20 and you get it for like 2 or 3 days. Just like, it's still longer than you would get at a theater, granted, but like, you know, it's still not yours. But either way, you weren't purchasing it when you went to the theater and taking it home with you anyway.
Exactly.
So, like, I feel like that's actually a good deal. And I don't usually like to praise large companies like that, but that's not a bad idea, actually.
Yeah, they said it's yours to watch whenever you want. It's not a temporary rental. You paid $30, and that I think that was the other problem people had, is like $30. $30 is like you'd pay the same if it was a Blu-ray or a 4K disc or whatever. You're buying it. It's yours. You just have to watch it on Disney Plus.
I just don't think people are allowed, like, they don't allow themselves to just be okay with a thing anymore.
No,
like, it's starting to feel that way. Like, there's just always got to be that person arguing about it, regardless of how good it is, bad it is.
Well, for that matter, I mean, I woke up.
I think we're forgetting we're doing the gaming podcast today.
We are. We'll get there. The conversation's good. The conversation's good.
You know?
We got to work ourselves out of the conversations we were doing. They were good.
We
got praise for that, did we not?
We did.
Yeah.
We did.
So maybe we'll get more of these. Who knows?
Yeah.
You tell us.
You decide.
Audience. You know, if our audience is telling us, hey, I like that, we'll keep doing it.
Yeah.
But no, I woke up yesterday and I looked at Twitter and there were several hashtags or trending topics going around, and it was opposite sides of the spectrum, you know, conservative leaning posts, you know, liberal leaning posts, and it was just this, no matter which side you're on, it's just hate.
Yeah.
Like,
we're just angry people these days. We're just angry.
And a lot of them added nothing to the conversation. There were no thought-provoking, hey, let me try to change your mind things. It was just like, you're stupid. Mm-hmm. Okay. If
you don't think like I do, you're dumb, and why do you exist? That's all it is. My way is always the correct way, and that's all there is to it. If you don't think like I do, you're dumb. How could you not be so woke? How could you not see it how I see it? How could you have not lived the exact same life I have lived to this point in my exact skin and experienced all the same exact things I've experienced? How could you not have done that?
Exactly. It's just
how dare you?
The name calling and all that stuff. I just looked at it and was like, I hate people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It starts to make you feel that way, man. It really does. It's unfortunate.
One more story and we'll get into games. I'm sorry. It made me think of this. Okay, so there's someone I work with that this is the
Florida
best.
Man?
This is the best example. No, it's not Florida Man.
That's all he's ever going to be known to from here to forth from me. It's just Florida Man.
So far, I feel like we're getting rid of him, but I don't want to say anything. I don't know. I'm only hoping.
The one podcast I'll actually listen to.
Yeah, right. Anyway, there's somebody I work with, and I know she'll never listen to this, but she is definitely a conservative-leaning person. Mm-hmm. Okay, I've heard it in a lot of her,
and that's fine,
things that she says, but it's all in the wrong way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you have to tell a story and you have to tell me that someone is black. And it has no bearing on the story
That's
whatsoever.
what I've always wondered when people did that. Yeah. And that contributes what to my understanding of what's happening? Yeah.
Exactly. So you kind of get an idea who this person is, and then you hear them talk about...
I have tons of Southern family, so I get it.
Yeah. And Harry Potter is Satan and all that stuff.
Oh, okay.
So before I really got to know her like that, you know, we were pretty friendly, pretty close and stuff like that. And then I had to train her to do my job, because I was moving to another job. Mm-hmm. And boy, oh boy, things changed. Got to the point where I really don't want to be around this person anymore, because I realized the type of person they are, their mindset on things because
and probably have only been feeding into that for themselves.
Oh yeah,
a lot more lately. Yeah.
To keep it in the most simple terms that I can, she is the person who things are done a certain way, have been for so long, and if you point out that that's wrong, she absolutely says, well, that's just the way it's been done.
I hate that so bad.
And it's just like,
always how it's been. Like,
yeah, that's
mean
always
it was
has been.
Right.
That's always the way I've done it. It's like, okay, but here's why you're wrong. Well, it's just that's just the way I've always done
learning.
It. It's like I get that, but it's been wrong. So let's talk about how we're going to change it. Refuses to change, and even behind my back, and this pissed me off. Found out she complained to someone else. I just can't believe you're just rolling over for what he says. It's like, but I proved I was right, and you're gonna bash me
because
behind
you
my
proved
back?
her wrong. You hurt her
Because
feelings.
I'm just, and it
I'm
wasn't
just telling you why. We
I
have that
wasn't-
mindset these days. If we're told we're wrong, instead of accepting it and learning a new thing, we automatically think you're the bad guy for even thinking I could have thought anything was wrong or I'm the problem at all.
Yeah. And see what it really initially boiled down to, and I proved this to the other person. I'm so glad she's on my side, so to speak. Okay, it's just my coworker. I just broke it down in the simplest of terms. There's a report that we have to create, and for traceability purposes, some of the product that we have has a code on it, and you want to put the code that's on the product on the report. That way you can link it back.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Now, the other person was using a different code because they were told that's the code to use. And I said, okay, but that doesn't make sense because then you have no traceability. So you can't connect the dots.
I wouldn't even have thought that would have worked at all.
Her excuse was, well, that's just the way we've always done it. And furthermore, we're not supposed to check the product. So therefore, it made it okay to use the other code because we never checked
because
the
nobody
product.
was checking it anyway.
Exactly.
So then my excuse would have been, then why am I even bothering to input a code if I had that mindset? I'm like, if nobody's checking it anyway, then I'm just not even going to bother to put in the code, right or wrong.
I can just put in whatever, and then it doesn't matter anymore. And then when they need traceability, it's not going to be there.
I'm just going to start writing the lyrics to Never Gonna Give You Up.
Right.
And rickroll everybody who wants to check. That's it. That's how I've always done it. So, I mean,
yeah,
it can't be wrong.
But all I did is once I pushed back on this, I took my other coworker and I said, hey, look, I said, you see that? Here's the code that I'm using. It's on the product. You can see it clear as a bell. This is traceability. That's it. That's all I'm trying to get you to understand. And she's like, I get it. Yeah, I'll start doing that. But the other person, I can't believe it.
Then they should be fired. They're straight up telling you they're not going to do what's expected of them.
Well, she's near retirement, and she has been pushing. She has been pushing the buttons of the boss, like refusing outright. Like I even caught.
I mean, if she got fired before she retired, would she lose all those nice, neat little benefits? So maybe let's do your job right, or not at all, and all of those years you put forth will just be to waste.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's all these little things that she does that just you try to understand the mindset. For example, okay, there was I know I'm sorry.
Fuck gaming news today.
But no, there was
We're so 20 minutes into the weeds. It's ridiculous.
Fine.
Sorry about the F-bombs, guys.
Yeah, sorry.
If you watch this for NS, or safe for work stuff here. I was going to say not safe for work, which is what I did.
Well, there's a report that I was going to hand off, and I realized it was going to be a disaster because when I took it over, it was already kind of in this weird gray area where it wasn't done right, wasn't done wrong, but it was just kind of it could improve. Mm-hmm. And I spent my years doing that, making it right, fixing it, making it perfect, and that's just the kind of person I am. I can't help it. Mm-hmm. And when I realized handing it off to her was going to destroy it, I decided I'm going to keep it. I'm going to keep it because I just don't want to watch this die,
Right?
I said, when I have to, when I have move on to a job that I can't do it anymore or something else, sure, I'll give it up. I'll have to. But right now, I can continue doing it. I'm okay with it. And she was already struggling with it. Like, there were days she was crying because she couldn't get it. And I didn't understand why she couldn't, because I literally drew maps. I was like, here's what you have to do. I don't know how much simpler I could have made it. And it hurt my brain. I was trying not to lose patience, but it's where I was. Anyway.
Yeah.
So I said, hey, I'm just going to keep these, and you were, well, what am I going to do? I don't know. You're probably going to get
honestly
saddled.
don't know what you do ever at this point, ma'am. So just...
I said, you worry about all the other jobs. I'm sure they'll give you plenty more to do. I said, but I'm going to keep these. What did I do wrong? I was like, doesn't matter. You just don't worry about it. From that point on, it was continually, well, I can do those if you want me to, or I can do those, and maybe you'll have to give them back at some point, and all this, just continually pushing to get them back. But then, alternatively, would say, I just don't have time to do all these other jobs that they're trying to get me to do. It's like, so then you don't have time to do this thing that you say that you want back. So, which is it?
I would just not talk to her anymore.
I've literally gotten to that point where...
we're done here.
Yeah, when she comes around, I'm just like, yeah, I gotta go.
Happy retirement, lady. Like, we're done.
One other quick example. She's the only one that technically got moved in our department to another area, to another space. I don't understand why I got moved. This is unfair. Alternatively, oh, I love it over there. It's so great. Oh my God, people leave me alone. Oh my God, it's so great. I don't understand why I got moved. Which is it? Do you like it or not?
Just whatever mood she's in, man.
Yeah, it's frustrating. So hey, what have you been playing?
Oh my gosh. So trying to remember an entire summer's worth of what I've been playing is an impossible task. But as of the last week, I have been in FMV hog heaven. Let me tell you.
Uh-huh.
I downloaded a bunch of like free FMVs from itch.io, which to me, they looked like those thesis games that developers would do in college or whatever. Like, look, I did a thing. But a lot of them were actually really cute. Maybe they took like 10 minutes. That was it. But they were well done, cute. Some of them were pretty funny. Nice, neat little punchline. I appreciated it. And then revisited this website called Echo, EKO, which has a ton of quality interactive movies that I highly recommend. I haven't found one off of there yet that hasn't been just great and hilarious on a lot of them. And a community member of mine, I'll just say it, Quaper. He keeps his Twitter locked, so that's why I didn't like tag him or anything. But like, he actually got in the first degree working again. And I don't know if you guys remember me talking about this FMV that's from like 95 that I've been trying to figure out how to get to work again for I don't even know how long. Like, I have the discs, but Windows 10 is garbage as far as compatibility goes. It says it's there, but it's really not. Like, I'm not even sure why they bothered to put it in there. It doesn't work. Never has. But so it needs QuickTime, which who the crap can get like old QuickTime anymore? You know, like, it was just a mess, and I finally gave up on it. He figured it out yesterday in like 10 minutes, sent me a file. Boom, it was working. I was in hog heaven. I couldn't believe it. It was the first time probably since it was kind of new that I even got to play it again. And you know what? It holds up. I was a little scared to dive into it again because I'm like, man, sometimes your memories of old games are just best kept the way that you remember them. You know, like, you don't want to spoil it. But you know what? No, it held up. Like, the quality of the video was actually still pretty good, even for being in standard definition. So the acting was still really good. The gameplay, I mean, it's definitely old. So if you mess up, you mess up. There's no like mulligans. You know what I mean? Like back in the day, those games, if you screwed up and got yourself in a corner, you just kind of had to start the game over.
Right.
And I, of course, did not get the guy convicted at all. I was like, wow, I've forgotten all the right things to push, you know, because like the whole point is you're trying to get him convicted of murder in the first degree. He could get second, he could get manslaughter, he could get nothing. But depending on how you interview all of the witnesses and the evidence that you collect beforehand before you go to the courtroom scene kind of determines how well the witnesses are going to play along and what conviction you get. And I totally got Tobin off scot-free. Gosh dang it.
Wow.
I was like, really? And even when they're on the stand, I'm like, why aren't you talking about the bundle? We talked about the yellow bundle. Why are you not bringing, it was your husband. You know, I'm just like screaming at the script. Then I'm like, I think I'm starting to remember now. Like, I had to do this a few times before I finally cracked the code. And in what order you got to ask them in too. It's crazy. But it still holds up. So if you can figure out how to get that game working again, totally recommend. But yeah, so I played that.
Cool.
A bunch of those FMVs. Finally beat Frostpunk the last autumn, which was the last DLC I had. I know a new one just came out, their final one. And I'll have to just wait a minute. I freaking rocked it.
Nice.
I don't know, out of all of the frustration and cursing and stressing that I would do with that game, and for some reason kept playing it, this last time I decided to kick it up, I didn't struggle at all. It's almost like I figured out how to play it.
Perhaps.
I was so impressed because usually there's one moment where I'm screaming at these people where I'm like, you want these things, but you gotta work, you know? No, it was great. I did go too evil though, and it was by accident, but once it started to happen, I just let it happen.
Best
So
to lean into
basically,
it.
we'll just say they ended up with like an execution spot near the generator, and I tried to take it back, but it won't let you tear it down. So I'm like, well, it kept their motivation really high.
I bet.
They stopped striking on me. I didn't intend to lean in that evil, but it happened.
Sure.
And I beat it. And only 12 people died throughout my entire run, which out of like 500 people, let's just say that's good.
Yeah, that
And,
sounds great.
and 3 of them were by accident because of the execution.
Hey, it's better than COVID numbers.
You know? And that was all summer long in accordance to like the frame of the game and how long you're playing. But yeah. So that was my week. So I had an FMV fun-filled week with quality stuff. How about you?
I feel like I haven't been playing games that often.
It's true. You've been
Weird
hard
as
at work
that
on
is.
other stuff.
Yeah, I finally finished episode. Okay, so I'm gonna confuse everybody. Hang on. I finished episode 3 of Super Mega Crash Adventures, but it's the 4th episode completed. Does that make sense, everybody?
Yeah.
Because the last episode I finished was the 3rd episode completed, but I decided to move it to episode 4 because narratively it flows better. You'll understand when you see it.
Right.
It just works better like this. Because it was going to be episode 3, and I was like, no, let's shift this around a little bit. So, there are now 4 episodes available to watch if you want to go to patreon.com.
Nice.
I'm not going to plug it now, but $5 will get you access to 4 episodes
And they're
whatnot.
good.
Good. I was surprised how that one came together because it was getting to a point where I wasn't sure, and I think that's what's holding me back right now with 5. Like I'm still trying to get a lot of the assets set up for 5, but in the back of my head, I don't know why I feel like it's not going to be as good, or it's going to be a lesser episode or something like that.
I
and
think by the end of it, you'll find out it's your favorite one or something like that.
Could be. Because episode 4, that's what I was kind of thinking. I was like, is this going to be any good? And then, but throughout the creation, if something I had written on the page didn't work, or it wasn't working the way I was seeing it as I wrote it, I found a way to fix it. Or I found a more creative way to, like one of the jokes, I won't say what it is specifically, but there's a joke at it's the last scene of the town scene. Let's just put it that way. Okay. I didn't know how I was going to do that. Like how I wrote it on the page was simple compared to what I did. And that one so far that I've noticed gets the biggest laugh out of all the stuff that I've done. So somehow I took something that I didn't think worked, and now it's the biggest laugh out of that episode.
There you go.
So maybe that's the mindset I have to have here.
Yeah.
Is
Something inspirational strike as you go through.
it, and that's the beauty of the way these have been going is I can tell when it's not working or if the scene is not flowing, because episode 1 is probably the only one that has not been touched. Episode 2, 3, and 4, as we go along, I think of an idea and I'm like, I want to do this, or this isn't working. Let's re-record, or let's add something. Let's beef it up a little bit. whatever it is, just to tweak it to make it work. And I love that because it's not a matter of, well, we got to, with live action, you got to figure out, when are we going to have time to shoot, or can we match it, and all this other stuff. It doesn't matter. All I got to do is, if I need to re-record a line, you need to re-record a line, we just do it, throw it in, go.
Yep.
And I can work around everything that I've done thus far. So I love that creative freedom with this show. So I've just got to get into a mindset for this next episode that we'll get there. Mm-hmm. And I will even say this, what I've done so far with the opening scene, or what I'm creating for that. You've seen the opening scene to episode 4 in the control room. Mm-hmm. I'm trying not to give away too much, but you people are just going to have to... Maybe it'll intrigue you to go to Patreon.
Right.
The control room is alive. Yes? Mm-hmm. You would say?
I would say, yeah.
That's what I'm trying to do in this opening scene for 5. There is something going on in the background that, you might not pay attention to, but it's there. It's a detail. And that's another thing, too, that I've noticed that I put in with these episodes, is these little details that I almost talk myself out of, and think, I don't need to do that. People are not going to notice. I'll know. Mm-hmm. And then I'll just sit there and it'll nag me that I didn't just take that extra step for that little detail that no one will ever pay attention to. But I want to know that it is being done the way I want to see it done. Mm-hmm. Then I'm not going to look back on it and say, man, why didn't I do that? Or why didn't, just that one little detail would have made that so much better, Mm-hmm. Any little thing. But I'm doing it. And I don't care if it takes me. It'll probably be 2021 before we get it there. I hate to say that, but it's only 2 more episodes. So the pacing, we're getting there. It won't be too deep into 2021. Because honestly, I'm so excited for episode 6. Don't know why. But I am so psyched for that episode. I can't wait to get my hands on it. But I'm trying to pace myself to get there.
Right.
So we'll get there. Just not yet. Anyway, since I've been working on that, my gaming has been down a little bit. I don't even remember what I was playing last before we...
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I feel like I was in the middle of... I think it was Saints Row is what I was still playing.
Maybe.
3. They finally fixed the... Well, I say they fixed... The trophy issues that I was having. I had to go and replay back a little bit just to
you
get
have way
it.
more dedication than I do.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's fun.
I don't know why achievements have never reeled me in. Not even a little bit. The fact they exist is whatever to me. Like it really is.
It depends on what it is. I mean, if the moment I see that some game says beat it on expert or super hard nightmare difficulty, you can forget it. I'm done with it. My achievement hunting at that point, I'll get what I get, and that's that. I'm not even going to go out of my way for anything else because I know I'm not going to get that one. So I'm not going to attempt to even go much farther. I'm just not going to do it. So it depends for me. If it feels achievable, I'll definitely do it. If there's ever one little thing, like there was one that got away from me and it makes me so angry. It was a Mad Max game that came out. It was some bullshit trophy that you had to do all these certain little achievements within the game. And then if you did X amount of those, then you'll get this trophy. And some of them were just like, how am I supposed to make this happen? This isn't just, you go find this or you go find that. Characters had to jump on your car and all that stuff. It's like, well, when the hell is that going to happen? I have to wait on the computer to do that for me.
Right.
So I had to give that one up. I was like, I'm not going to waste my time doing this. So forget it. But yeah, I beat that. I did get Cuphead for PS4 because that was announced while we were out, and I figured this would entice me to play it more because it's on my PC and it works, but I just don't play games on my PC very often. Even though I think I did play the Shape-Shifting Detective while we were off too. So I went through that several times, and that was a great game,
isn't it though?
Yeah, it was fun.
They did a really good job.
Mm-hmm. It was interesting seeing these people in the game that I have had conversations with.
Right,
like,
and they're good people to boot, so, makes it even better.
And then what was even better is as I'm sitting there playing, and then this radio story comes over, and there's a very familiar voice telling me a story.
Oh,
and I was just like, I know her.
I know. I think I had the longest one too by accident because, like, as I was listening through all the radio ones, and even as I was listening to mine back, I was like, I don't like. It's almost like I don't even remember how long it was when I was recording it. Mm-hmm. Like as it kept going, I was like, my God. Yeah. This is actually really long, you know, like in game span, you know. Like,
right. I did sit and listen to it for a while because I was like, oh, she's telling her story. I know her. I was excited. Yes. So, yeah, I did play that. I played through it twice, actually, just to kind of see if I could
get a different killer or whatever.
Yeah, I got this. Yeah, I got the same killer both times.
Oh, did you? I got so lucky. I played 3 times in a row, got 3 different ones in a row. Like, even the developing team was like, wow, you got lucky on that. I'm like, yeah, I have no idea. Like, this is your RNG, man, you know, like, as soon as I start the game. But I got lucky that I got 3 different ones on 3 different playthroughs back to back. So
the second time I went through it, because I noticed, again, going achievement hunting, but I wanted to see what those other things were, because they were just like, do this, do this, do this. And I think there were 1 or 2 oddball things that I did the first playthrough that I just, you know, happened to do.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, let me see what I can do. So I started messing around with different, you know, approaches and characters and stuff like that, just to kind of get those. So that was kind of fun to see other angles to the story that I didn't see the first time through. So it made replay worth doing. But I was still hoping that I would get another killer, but it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, Cuphead. That. This was tough. So we're probably going to talk about this in news.
I'm cutting news down.
Okay. Well,
we're going to be here for 5 hours at this rate.
I dropped like $3 for Far Cry 3 Classic, then the Ubisoft stuff hit, and I've been eking through it slowly, but it's just like I don't know if I want to give them any more of my money.
You know what, though? It does seem like they were cleaning house, to be fair. Because, like, I've been seeing articles that keep getting posted of so-and-so being let go, this person being let go. I mean, right now, I don't feel like I want to. But so far, it seems like the correct steps are being made. We could argue about why it was let go for so long. That's not the point of this particular conversation, but it seems like the right moves are being made. So I'm hoping, that they clean their house the way it needs to be done and get their stuff on the right track.
I mean, I don't want to blame the developers for what the higher ups are doing, because they're the ones making the games. They're the one busting their ass, and I want to support them. But it's hard when you have to give the corporation your money too, and they don't filter it down to the right people. So I'm trying not. It's a hard disconnect, because again, I wanted to play it because I hadn't played it in a while, and then that came out, and I'm just kind of like, you know, I see it, and then I connect the dots. And I know some people. There's a lot
of good, hardworking people that unfortunately get punished in the crosshairs of everything. You know.
And I know some people can disassociate, and I can do it to some degrees on some things, but for whatever reason, it's been nagging at me a little bit when I'm playing this game.
But the best way we can vote is with our wallet, and it's just.
And I guess that's why
it is heartbreaking that innocent people get hung up in it, but sometimes it's just the only way these corporations start to understand, and they'll do it whether they agree with it or not. They just still want your money. So if that's the only way we could do it, it's unfortunate that we can't rely on people to just, you know, have these morals and understand that's just a crap way to be a human. But here we are, you know.
Yeah. And I guess when I looked at it, I was like, well, at least it was only $3. I was like, so it's not like
that probably all mostly went to Sony or however much of a cut they take. I don't know.
I don't know. Hey, let's talk about some news.
Let's talk about a little bit. Now, this one's going to be a little bit different because I felt like a lot of the news that happened over the summer, it's been beat to death. If you don't know about a lot of them by now, then I mean, I don't know. I just I kept seeing the same news articles. So just a couple of follow-ups on some things that I did find. And then this was this morning. So I'm sure we all remember, and I just refer to him as Garbage Man, but AKA Eric Estavillo, who sued Twitch for $25 million, which he claims made him suffer through medical problems related to sex addiction because of the content and algorithms of the site. Well, we have a little follow up on this lawsuit here. So, of course, if you guys need a little bit of a rundown, this garbage man was suing Twitch for $25 million, as I just said. And he, of course, named only a long list of female streamers, of which he only followed women and no men. So this BS lawsuit finally has a response from Twitch in a suit that they filed. So on August 18th, Twitch's lawyers have asked for the complaint to be struck under anti-slap laws, which, if you're not familiar, are laws intended to protect businesses and individuals from baseless legal proceedings. So Twitch requested this and asked the court to strike Garbage Man's complaint, and I quote, on the grounds that plaintiff's complaint against Twitch is subject to a special motion to strike under California Code of Civil Procedure 425.16. So I looked it up. This code refers to a disturbing increase in lawsuits brought primarily to, chill out the valid exercise of the constitutional rights of the freedom of speech and, all that kind of stuff. So it's basically like trying to protect you from garbage lawsuits. Mm-hmm. So Twitch is telling the court that Garbage Man is trying to decide on what content Twitch is to allow on its platform, which they are claiming is protected under free speech. So Twitch goes on to say in the anti-slap suit that since Garbage Man's complaints arises directly from content available in a public forum and acts in furtherance of speech about matters of public interest, the slap statute shifts the burden to him to present admissible evidence substantiating this claim. So Twitch then points to its own TOS, which states it takes no responsibility and assumes no liability for any user content or for any loss of damage resulting therefrom, nor is Twitch liable for any mistakes, defamation, slander, libel, omissions, falsehoods, obscenity, pornography, or profanity you may encounter when using Twitch's services. So, along with Garbage Man's other lawsuits that Twitch, of course, pointed out to in the past, looks like Garbage Man has to provide his own evidence needed or the case will be dismissed. I don't see how he can, but it's 2020 and anything could happen at this point.
Sure.
So, yeah, it sounds like Garbage Man's going to have to come up with his own garbage evidence to the garbage lawyer that took the garbage case to Twitch or to the courts to, prove he was hurt.
Well, like you said, we'll wait and see because we've seen a lot of garbage people seem to get away with a lot.
Yeah.
So I hope that it goes south real quick.
I hope it goes south and he has to pay Twitch. This is the only time I will
amazing.
accept Twitch getting more money. I hope you have to pay him. Actually, you know what? You should have to pay every freaking female you decided you were going to sue in this lawsuit. There.
For sure.
Am I unreasonable? Maybe, but do it. I don't care. You wanted $25 million because of your delicate sensibilities, so screw you, sir. Which is why I'm only referring to him as Garbage Man.
I think that's what we called him the first time.
Yeah, I don't think he deserves a name better than that.
No, he's a garbage.
I almost didn't even want to say his real name because I want all of you just to know him as Garbage Man. So, moving on to something else. Let's see, WB Montreal finally revealed the big rumored game that we've all been wanting to talk about here. Gotham Knights is the title, it appears. So we finally got some info. As we know, the rumors were going crazy for I don't even remember how long now, but it was officially announced that Gotham Knights, which will include a single player and a co-op mode, focuses on the family and not Batman. And it looked kind of interesting when I was watching the trailer because like they're presenting it. Batman has passed and we're watching this video that Batman has had set to go out to, his family upon his death when the cave and everything had to get blown up. And it looks like you're going to get to play like with some Batgirl and some Robin and all of his, family. And so we're not going to be focusing on him at all. It'll supposed to release on PC, Xbox One, and Xbox Series X, PS4 and PS5. The Court of Owls, am I saying that right?
Yes,
I think
that is correct.
Okay, good. I was corrected the other day and I rewrote it and now I can't remember which way I said it wrong. So they'll be the main villains. And finally, the game features a leveling up system as well as character customization. So cheers to the fans who's been waiting. There you go.
What's very interesting about that is the way it kind of the way they've kind of laid it out. For one, I'm very curious to know if this is not some sort of quasi sequel to the Arkham games, even though I would say narratively probably not, because looking at some of the characters that they're using, it wouldn't fit where they left off. But he did technically die at the end of the Arkham series, hypothetically, depending on which way you want to look at it. So it would be a nice, cool way to continue that series in another way. Mm-hmm. The fact that you're getting to play all the different Bat Family characters, I really hope each one has a very unique style. Mm-hmm. Because
it looked like a little bit, but of course we didn't see gameplay.
Yeah, sure. Well, there was that one gameplay. They did maybe like 10 minutes worth of gameplay.
Or maybe
footage.
I only watched the trailer then.
Yeah, you watched the trailer. I watched the fandom.
There you go. Yeah, you were up in it. That's true. I was doing other things while all of this was getting it out. So
because after they showed the trailer, I wasn't sure about the co-op thing. I thought, was there multiplayer? Because you saw Batgirl and Robin together on the screen together, and I was like, so can you play as both? Are there? Do you swap out? And then it seemed like Robin was working on his own, and I wasn't sure at that moment. And then afterwards, they were like, yeah, there's co-op, and I was like, oh, co-op, yes. Because, I mean, that's exciting for me, you know, getting to play one of these games with someone.
Yeah.
I'm in. And also, if you look at the way the characters are designed, it does seem like they should have their own unique skill set and style.
Yeah.
Because comparatively, Robin is small in stature. So I would assume he's quick, nimble, and kind of the way he works. But then someone like the Red Hood, he's beefy, he's big. So I would expect him to be a little slower and
like
more
tanky.
Yeah, power punchy, you know, and stuff like that. And of course, he's got his guns, which, you know, if you want to go that route. And then I guess compared Nightwing and Batgirl, they're still nimble characters, but to what degree?
Sure.
Like, is she going to be more acrobatic, or would that be more Robin's, or even Nightwing, I guess, more specifically? Would that be more his thing? I feel like he would be a middle ground character, not too fast, not too slow, just kind of, you know, your average run-of-the-mill character, and then the other three would be the slightly varied. Because Robin, maybe he, you know, where he's smaller in stature and quicker, maybe he takes more damage.
Yeah.
You know, since he's still kind of
more
a kid.
squishy. Yeah.
Yeah. But I would love to see the character customizations in that because each character has their own costumes, variations, and stuff like that, especially Robin. So I'd love to see what they can do with that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I people seem hype, so I'm excited for all of you who've been waiting to finally hear it, and all the comments I've been reading seem to be good. So as long as this is executed well, it seems like they might have a good game on their hands here.
I'm excited.
Yeah. Let's see here. What else? Oh yeah, one that broke my heart. Vampire the Masquerade 2 Bloodlines got delayed, and within that same week, they fired their creative leads.
Oh, no.
I'm heartbroken right now. So, okay.
So what happened?
As I just said, so for whatever reason, they decided that their creative leads, whom were involved in the first game, so Brian Mitsoda, who was with Troika Team, with the original Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, and creative director Carl Clooney are just no longer part of Hardsuit Labs' team, and the decision was reportedly made jointly between Hardsuit Labs and Paradox Interactive, which is the publishing team. So in replacement, they hired Alexandre Mandraka as creative consultant, who previously had a position, which was the position held by Carl. And then they go on to praise this new man and throw out some of his credentials, and they seem to have called it a day. But like this late into an RPG to fire your narrative guy?
Yeah.
And you say it's just going to only be slightly delayed? I don't think that's correct. I don't think you can just redo an RPG in a few months of time. But I mean, I don't know like how much they plan on keeping of maybe what, you know, Brian had already done, or if they're wanting to do an overhaul, because it seems very unclear why at this point that this shift had happened. So the guy, I mean, he was even put on the promotional materials as a draw for the sequel so that they could say, hey, we are being true to the roots of this game. Look, we have guy who was involved in the first one. And he was, in fact, in charge of the story. It's really kind of nuts. So he did put out his own statement Brian did, mentioning how he had been employed with the studio for 5 years, working on the game in the same amount of time, and that the firing just came suddenly. So he, at this point, is claiming he really doesn't know why he was let go and has not been led to believe this whole time that he hasn't been successful in what he was hired to do. But interestingly, I found out about this story like a week or two ago, but he was suddenly fired on July 16th. So not sure why it took so long to come down the pike for the information. But as of the time of recording this podcast, his position is he has no idea why he was let go. And with Hardsuit and Paradox, they were basically just saying that they were tightening up some things and revamping some things to make the user experience better. So I don't know, but their delay to early 2021 or so, I don't see happening. But let's see. It just feels like RPGs are usually very dialogue heavy. Yeah. And for someone to have been completely involved in the narrative drive to be let go this late in the game, I mean, but I'm just being left to speculate at this point since we're really not even sure why this guy was let go. But I'm heartbroken because I was really looking forward to it. It seemed like they were far enough along the last time we were watching a trailer at whatever convention it is now. I can't remember since everything's been online. What's what?
And you said this is the guy who wrote the first
He was
one?
part of the original team,
okay.
Troika. Yeah, like there was more than just him, but he was part of the original team and had been the one in charge of the narrative drive of this story for the last 5 years, according to his statement, and was never led to believe anything was wrong. So
I'd really like to know what's going on here because I'm going to shift to another very similar story that reported while we were off. Not gaming related, but it's similar in fashion that if there wasn't something like sexual allegations or something like that, then what exactly was the problem? You know, for someone important like that especially was your draw. I don't know if you heard. Well, you probably didn't hear, but anyway, Netflix is working on an Avatar: The Last Airbender series.
Yes,
it's a live action one. The creators of the original show were serving as creators on this show, and they walked away. Saying that Netflix was not seeing their vision. They said it could still be good, but it will not be the vision we intended. So therefore, it shows creative differences and whatnot. So I'm curious if this is in that same vein, creative differences. He wanted to go one way, and the studio's like, nah, we're going to go this way.
I mean, probably it's the best reasoning I've heard so far, you know, because like as I kept digging, they're just wanting to make it sound like everything's fine, you know. And
well, I mean, if you're bringing in people who know this stuff and are the reason for this stuff, if this guy was really the driving force to the narrative in the original game and made it what it was, why in God's name would you do anything to disrupt that? This is going to be the guy who's going to make your game good.
Right.
In some
kind
way.
of, I think, was the way that they were getting on people's good graces to even make the sequel was the promise that it would stay true to its roots.
Right.
You know? So it's kind of set us all into a kind of a... I mean, I know that's not a real word, but...
Yeah, but no, I understand what you mean. Because that's how people with the Avatar thing, they're just like, so Netflix, you made the creators of the show walk away.
The creators walk, yeah.
Don't want to go down the road they're wanting to go down, even though they are the ones who created this whole mythology.
Right.
This whole story.
You're allowed to create your own new story, Netflix. You don't have to
if you're
put their name on it.
Yeah, if you're going to take away their creative freedom to do what they wanted to do with this thing that you wanted to have a part of, then why did you even bother? Yeah, because you're pissing all over.
This is what happens when you get suits with money involved.
Mm-hmm.
They just... I wish there was a way we could get around it and not have to rely on them for anything.
By the way, have you ever watched that?
What's that? Suits?
Avatar.
Oh, Avatar. I have not.
Okay.
I have not. And I've been told I need to, so I'll probably get around to that, but there's no promises. I forget a lot of things I say I'll do.
Okay, I understand that. But I'm gonna go ahead and make the case to reinforce that you need to check it out. I know that you watched Dora and the Lost City of Gold.
I did!
And I watched that too, and it was actually kind of good.
It really was! I mean, it
surprising.
wasn't my decision to watch it, but I was very happy that I dedicated time
It's
to
just
pay
like,
attention.
this isn't bad.
Good old wholesome fun, yeah.
Avatar was one of those things that I actually pushed back on a lot because I had this mindset of what I thought it was.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I just thought it was like, it's some crazy kooky kids and their crazy kooky adventures, and I don't want to see that. There is some of that, the silliness and whatnot, and that kind of, it's the humor, it's the levity of the show, which is amazing.
So just lean into it and have a good time.
It's surprisingly deep.
Oh, okay.
Like, when I went into it, I really thought it was just going to be this goofy little show for kids and whatnot, and it's really deep. It hits a lot of adult themes that you just really wouldn't think about. The humor is there for the kids, you know, to kind of keep them interested, but the stories are very adult, and it's there for levity's sake. I'd say that more than anything, because you're going to have your goofy moments, be like, ha ha ha, that's funny, but then the stories just go deep, and I'm like, I was really impressed. Like, once I started watching it, I really got into it, and I was like, damn. So much so that when I watched the movie adaptation by M. Night Shyamalan, that movie can go.
You know, he's like, yeah, I don't know, man.
What he did.
It's like sometimes his stuff's good, sometimes it's bad.
Well, here's the problem. You took, and I don't remember how many episodes the first season is. We'll say 20 episodes, because that seems normal for any show. Mm-hmm. He took all those episodes and crammed them into 90 minutes for season 1. The narrative was, it was just like rushing through it, like a Cliff's Notes version of it, and it was just like
he's known for being confusing. I guess he thought people would just think it was amazing because he did it. I don't know.
But you can't follow anything like that, because you're like, well, you're taking away all the character building for anybody, and you're just saying, well, here's what it is. Furthermore, they pronounce all their names stupid. Like, it's not the way they were on the show, which, you know, they were there. It's not like this was a question of saying... Well done
on your research there.
Yeah. It's like, oh, well, how do you say that? Oh, we're just going to say it like this, even though the show says it differently.
But they're wrong.
Yeah, they're wrong.
It's for the West, right? So we've got to, like, dumb everything down for us, maybe.
It was so cringe-worthy, the whole thing, and I sat through it all, even though halfway through I was like, I hate this movie. But I was like, I committed this far, goddammit, I'm going to go all the way.
Yeah.
It's garbage.
Shyamalan, what are you doing, man?
Anyway, continue.
All right, let's see here. Okay, I guess we'll mention it. I know we've been talking about it forever here. So, like, this Fortnite versus, like, the world situation. I'm not going to hammer it too hard because I'm pretty sure most of us are caught up on it. But if you're not, a brief TLDR is that Epic Games, who, of course, is the people behind Fortnite, decided that they were going to put in a workaround in their app for the iOS and Apple storefront that would get around having to pay Apple's cut for any purchases made within the game. So if you were playing Fortnite, where you would normally go to buy V-Bucks, you were now met with an alternative way to pay directly from Epic themselves and save yourself a ton of money. It sounds super consumer friendly on its face, right? To which, you know, Apple was like, you know, you signed our agreement in terms of service, which says we get a 30% cut and we're blocking you from the store. And you broke the rules. So that's them just the breaks. But within a matter of hours, of course, Epic already had a 65-plus page lawsuit ready to go, along with their own propaganda video weaponizing their fan base to go after Apple because they're clearly being picked on here. So as the story kind of progressed, it starts to get even more stupid. And I'm sorry if y'all are taking sides, but I'm finding it really hard to care about either of these multi-billion-dollar companies fighting it out over more multi-billions of dollars. I don't care how consumer-friendly Epic's trying to make it sound. Is 30% a lot? Sure, maybe. I don't know. You know, like I feel for the developers and the creators who are getting punished in the midst of this lawsuit. So Epic wasn't looking for a money settlement in their lawsuit, which one would think most people are suing for. They're claiming it's to free the store from its oppressive pricing and to make developers more money by having these stores take a lesser cut, which on its face, again, people are thinking Epic's a rock star here. But diving in a bit more, I have my reservations. Because with them having a suit ready to go so fast, the video, and with their past records of buying exclusives, which as we know is also extremely consumer friendly, I wouldn't be surprised if they have a storefront for mobile ready to go, if I'm being honest with you. Because if they win the lawsuit as they're hoping, which is one I will keep my eye on, they're kind of trying to make it sound like they would like all of these phones to have to put at least 2 other storefronts on their phone to keep phones from making you only buy from their product. So I'm kind of finding this whole thing a little gross. And again, Epic agreed to these terms of service before they did it and purposefully made the decision and knew that they were going to get banned from it. They absolutely knew. But, oh, wait, there's more. So that's just the stuff that we kind of have been hearing about. So, but this isn't the only lawsuit Epic has filed. They filed yet another one to Apple. And this one is just for the sheer retaliation they feel they received from Apple. So now Apple removed Fortnite from its App Store, but has since told Epic that it will terminate all of its developers' accounts and cut off Epic entirely from iOS and Mac development tools on August 28th, unless they get over their BS. So Epic is saying it will result in irreparable harm. And the company goes on to say that cutting off access to dev tools also affects software like Unreal Engine, which Epic offers to third-party developers and which Apple itself has never claimed to have violated any policy. So as I read through the lawsuit, Apple seems to be saying, you made this mess. Now comply with the rules or sit in it. And I mean, I don't really know how else to feel about it myself. So Epic seems to be wanting the best of both worlds. We find out they actually asked Apple to be a special case, because you think Apple was just going to keep their mouth shut. So apparently they reveal an email where Epic was actually asking for special privileges for their own stuff. And when Apple was like, no, you've got to comply to the same rules that we put for every developer, then it seemed like all of this stuff started to spiral into what we're seeing today. So they're, of course, they're upset that they're getting removed. And I just think this whole thing is dumb. And shouldn't be giving the time that it is getting, if I'm being honest. But I kind of feel the same way. Epic, you made this bad. You kind of got to lie in it. You did this to your fans. You alone. Epic is trying to make it sound like they're the victim of retaliation, when instead they're just kind of getting the consequences of their own actions. But Apple, I mean, they've been saying if you just agree to the terms that you had already agreed to, you're more than welcome to come back with open arms. But they also, Apple fired back in their lawsuit. It's not like we're the only place people can get Fortnite. You know that they're on consoles. And so to try to make it sound like we're killing your game is just completely false. So, yeah. Now Apple's fired back with their own lawsuit at Epic. And I feel like this is just going to keep spiraling and spiraling and spiraling until we've all just had enough and we're going to quit looking at it. I don't know. It's just... they're just going to keep suing each other, I think. So, I mean, really and truly, my heart just goes out to the developers who are getting caught up in this mess and content creators who use mobile for their content, because you guys are the ones who are getting punished in this whole mess for the time being. Do I agree that 30% is too much? Probably. But, like, we still signed those terms. And if you believe in it, this could be a class action lawsuit probably down the line. I have no idea. You know, because if you've got those people who got the game on mobile, who purchased these things for it, and now they're losing it over a lawsuit, like, I could just see this spiraling out of control.
Do you think there will be a time when the gaming industry is not so garbage?
No, I think we've let it go way too long now. Until we all start focusing more on just like independent stuff and just like nixing the large major studios altogether, we're just going to have to keep going along for this ride, in my opinion. Money talks way too hard, and we're going up against companies that make millions and billions of this dollars. We don't really have a say in this stuff anymore, but we keep buying it.
Yeah, we do.
So they're going to keep doing it. So it's like, I don't think they're going to get better now.
Okay.
I think it's going to have to take some big collapse of the industry altogether somehow, and I don't hope for that, trust me. But in a little bit more of since Epic's consumer-friendly news, we found out Hitman 3 was announced while we were on a break. Woo! The PC version of Hitman 3 is going to be a Epic exclusive. I just had to laugh at this whole thing. It's all such hypocritical BS. So to celebrate, they say you could download Hitman from 2016 to download forever between August 27th and September 3rd. So if you want to grab it up for free, there you go. Since it's supposed to be able to continue from 2, and if you bought it on Steam, I guess you're just SOL, right? So the VR version appears to be a PSVR exclusive for the time being as well. So which isn't surprising because I don't think Epic actually has a VR store yet, or a cart. But that might be next. I don't know. Tencent wants to buy everything, right? So not sure I care anymore about Hitman, to be fair, but I'm not one of those that I care about which launcher I use, but I just don't use Epic Store for it because it doesn't connect with any of my other stuff. So I go there for free stuff. I'm that person. Yeah. All right. And I just got a couple of smaller stuff, and then we need to move on to the headliner, or if you're still with us all, thank you very much. But we have to mention Fall Guys, because I mean, holy crap, did that take over while we were off too. But the one thing I wanted to mention about it, if you're not familiar with Fall Guys, it was free on PS Plus. I think you can still grab it this month. And it's, you have to purchase it for PC, but it's just the most adorable little simple freaking game that's just taken over, and everyone's been addicted to it. You're just playing these tiny little beans in what I would say is like a wipeout type course, and you're just trying to win the crown and beat everybody. And there's certain seesaw levels where you have to run around and make the balance off kilter, or you grab tails off of your little beans, and whoever has the most tails on their team at the end wins. And they're really kind of cute and kind of brilliant, because when you see a bean Fall Guy, there's no mistaking it for anything else. It's a highly recognizable little thing. But the thing I wanted to mention about, because I thought this was really cool, is that they took over and decided to do a charity drive. So what happened here is, once Fall Guys started to take storm, large major brands started to take notice, and all of them wanted their own costume brand somehow put into the game. So we had the likes of Walmart, KFC, of course, Wendy's, even the developers of Warframe, all putting in, wanting to have, they make up little mock-ups of the costume and like, hey, Fall Guys, they tweet out, what do you think? So the brilliance behind the developers of this decided to use it for good. And you want it in the game? Bid on it for charity. So as the tweet from Fall Guys account stated, the thirst from brands has been unreal. So we're turning it into something positive. The prize? Your brand inside Fall Guys as a costume. To enter, reply to this tweet with the highest amount of money you would be willing to donate to the charity Special Effect, which helps gamers with disabilities. So that was what the deal was. Meanwhile, as this was going on, we had, Warframe put in a bid of $20K. We had people starting to go up insanely high. Then, of course, Ninja bids $200K. Mr. Beast steps in $300K. It's starting to get out of control. So as of 3 days ago, the last bid was $325,000. I think there's still this whole week to go. But brilliant.
Yeah,
and for
absolutely.
such a great cause. And like, whoever this person is running the socials for Fall Guys, well done. You're just like, you're brilliant at your community managing, and keep it up, kiddo. I say kiddo because I think he's like a young kid in like his early 20s, but keep it up, man. It's going well. They got verified on Twitter and everything, man. Like they're making waves. And then lastly, on the same thing.
Okay.
Meanwhile, there was a little bit of issues with legitimate keys for the games being canceled, unfortunately. So in an attempt to go after key scammers, which was happening very, very widely when they were giving out beta keys, like people were swiping these keys up, trying to use it as giveaways for subs in their stream channels. Like, it was really gross, trying to resell them. And they're giving these away for free, mind you. So there's no reason why Twitch streamers should be charging subscriptions for these free beta keys, any of this stuff. So really gross stuff was happening. So in an attempt to go after these key scammers, Devolver Digital, in fact, accidentally revoked legitimately bought keys. They apologized profusely, and refunds went out. So this is how people had seen it. So apparently a few refunds went out with a message attached. The key you received belongs to a batch of that were exploited by scammers looking to turn a quick profit. And as a result, we have disabled all the keys in that batch and have issued refunds to the affected customers. But the issue was also that some of these players paid around $4.50 for the game, which Devolver says was a mistake on the price. And it has since gone up to $10, which means that those that were refunded won't be able to repurchase at the price that they once purchased the game at. So I'm finding it a little unclear where they were getting these game keys. It almost sounds like these people might have bought it from an illegitimate site if they had it for $4.50, but Devolver did say that it was a mistake. So it seems like a very weird turn of events right there in a short period of time. But Devolver has since released a statement saying that they made the mistake, in which resulted in the cancellation of legitimate keys purchased by the community. We apologize unreservedly for our unfortunate error, and they go on to say that those who were affected can recover the copy of their game. So, and I trust Devolver is sincere in that, and that this was a completely honest, innocent mistake, because they really did have a lot of garbage people trying to like scam for this game. It was really crazy.
Well, it's not surprising. Garbage people just exist within the gaming universe.
Oh, so now I have to say this since we're more garbage people. I know this is all this is today. Burger King did some really garbage stuff this week too. They made an ad for streamers that went out, which they went around. This is what their marketing person decided to do, is they went around to Twitch streamer streams donating $5 with a message attached about how, did you know at Burger King for $5 you can get XYZ? Because some streamers will have the talk to speech on if you donate money, that a message will be read out loud on stream if you attach a message to said donation. So they went around doing this at a lot of Twitch streamer streams and recording the clips and putting it together as a nice little scummy ad for themselves. So they blurred out all of the streamers' faces and did like a voice distortion to try to keep the streamers anonymous, since clearly they didn't ask permission to probably put their likeness in their ad, since they had money to donate to streamers to do the scummy instead of using that money to do it a legitimate way like most companies would do. So of course they got a lot of backlash for it, that, you know, they were using all of these Twitch streamer streams in essence to just advertise for Burger King. So what I would say is just take the $5 if it happens to you, turn off the text to speech before that message pops up if you notice it, keep the $5 and do that to, I flipped him off, flip off Burger King and call it a day. I watched the ad too. It was so weird. They were just so happy about that they look at this brilliant thing that I just did.
Yeah, it sounds terrible.
It was pretty gross. But that's a little bit of the news that I got together that I thought wasn't being talked about widely, aside from the Apple lawsuit with Epic, of course. But now our headliner today, we're doing it a little different. Like I didn't do games or anything like that. Oh, he's holding up a finger.
Yeah, holding up a finger because you missed two very important little stories.
Oh, I don't know. We were going well over an hour. I was looking at time. What did I miss?
But no.
We're not going to have time for a headliner.
These are quickets, if anything. First of all, if you didn't know, this game that we adore has come out on Switch, Evergate.
Oh, that's right.
We've talked about that so many times on this show. We love it. It's on Switch right now.
Yes.
So if you don't have a PC, but you do have a Switch, and you want to play an amazing game, go over there, get it right now on the eStore. It's available. Go now.
I love how much indie is on the Switch.
Yeah.
I can love it.
I love it. And they even got featured on the indie showcase.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah. I totally should have put that website down because I did. So it was like Nintendo. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, and think about that. Three.
I think it's 4 of them.
2, 3, 4. Is it 4? I don't know. It's been a while.
That we've met.
Yeah, we met them a few years ago. Let's just keep it.
It's been like 3 or 4.
And they were just this little. I mean, nobody. They were. I don't mean that in a bad way, but they were just like little guys off in the little corner at PAX,
trying to make their thing work.
Here's our game, and then in a few years later, boom! I knew they would blow up. We called it.
Yeah,
it blew up, and there they are. I'm so
and
proud of them.
deservedly so, man.
And we've
really
been left
great.
in the dust. No,
well, of course, they get bigger, you know.
They're
Good
amazing.
for them.
And secondly, I'm surprised you didn't mention this when you were talking about Gotham Knights, because there was another game that was announced.
Oh, the
during
Suicide
DC
Squad
fandom.
one?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I guess I just wasn't as interested. So that's probably my fault right there. I was like, oh, well, I feel like we've been rumoring that for a while, too.
We have, but now it's official.
Now it is official. You're right.
Suicide Squad killed the Justice League. This is from Rocksteady, the ones who did the Arkham series. Curious to see how this will play, because it's funny, between the two games, it almost seems like we're doing the same thing here, but with the Suicide Squad, because we have Harley Quinn, Captain Boomerang, King Shark,
And wasn't it like 4-player
and Deadshot.
multiplayer? Yeah.
So they gave us 4 characters from the Suicide Squad that were like, eh? But even though we didn't get now that one we didn't get gameplay footage for. That was like a cinematic trailer just to kind of give you an idea of I guess what the game was going to be. And of course it ends with what seems to be a very evil Superman coming to attack them, and they're just like, who are we going to kill? And they're just like, him. And it's like, So it's I mean, if you haven't seen the cinematic trailer for it, it's pretty entertaining.
Yeah.
And I guess Tara Strong sounded like she was voicing Harley in this game.
I think I did read that, yeah.
I'm not sure about the other 3. They didn't sound familiar, but she sounded very familiar. Funny enough, too, I took note of this. They definitely seem to have patterned her face off of Margot Robbie. I mean, she could almost pass.
I think that's just what we assume it looks like now, right?
Yeah.
Or she looks like now, yeah. That wasn't
her.
I have no idea why that. Maybe it game.
That it person. But no, it looks like it'd be interesting. I can't wait to see actual gameplay footage because we didn't get that. But it did also.
I just assume we'll never see gameplay footage again until we buy games. It's just kind of how I'm feeling these days.
But it did seem like it had a longer wait time because Gotham Knights said 2021. This said 2022.
Yeah.
So
Jesus.
it's still 2 years out. So fair enough. We haven't got
Good
it.
God. Yeah.
But
these games take forever. It's almost by then you almost are wondering if people will still care. You put so much time in between it, when it's a hot thing or whatever.
But yeah, between the two of them, they confirmed a lot of Truth or Trash that we talked about over the last year. Because it was always these little snippets of things like, I remember the Court of Owls, I remember the Suicide Squad. It was just like, maybe it's doing this. So it was both of them, apparently.
Yeah. And this was the summer for rumors, too. You've left us all with so much time.
Yeah.
That we pull at any thread we see as could be a leak. Especially with a side note again, because it was funny on Twitter the other day, like all of the added images just broke. So like as you're scrolling through Twitter, if somebody put up a picture, it just had the little broken symbol on it, to which people started trolling all of the gamer fans saying, oh my God, I finally found the leaked price of the PlayStation and the Xbox. And it would just be that broken image. And so this goes on for a while, and I do have to give a shout out to Multimoo. He created like very top level meme of that whole situation, which we probably should link, I would say, because it's like such top tier meme that like you have to see it. But yeah, and I'll just leave it at that because you have to go watch the video. It's only 30 seconds of your life, but it's high quality, top tier, man. Like way more than we deserve for the meme. So go check it out. But yeah.
Okay. Now we can do the headliner. I'm sorry.
Sorry
I just
about that,
wanted to make
guys.
sure there was-
I know I was kind of going through some of it here, and I think also with me hopping back and forth with my notes going, what do I actually think people haven't heard about yet? But yeah, so it's a little bit different today as we're settling back into things. Our headliner today is going to be a discussion. Stephen and I had the opportunity to check out High Score, which is a limited docuseries on gaming, which premiered this last week on Netflix. 6 episodes, basically about how gaming got started and some brief history on how things ended up to where we are today with how massive a market it is and how amazing they look, which if you are of a certain young age, I kind of recommend because unfortunately you got screwed out of getting to see it happen in real time. So I don't know that you will ever be able to appreciate how games are today as much. Maybe.
Right.
I could be wrong. I'm not going to blanket the term for everybody, but I would say if you were probably Zoomer or a little younger, they've always been amazing for you. So there's nothing to really fall back on. But it was interesting. I don't know. Did you feel like you learned anything really new? Because I feel like I didn't really learn anything new, but getting to see the people behind it and listening to their stories is what made it very interesting to me.
Absolutely. There were certain details we've actually covered here on this show. When we talked about Atari, we covered some ground there. There was the lawsuit against Donkey Kong.
Right.
We covered that in
Night
greater
Trap.
detail, I might add.
Yeah.
It was very interesting to hear from a lot of those people because when doing that research, we didn't have, access to those people. We just knew kind of a Cliff's Notes version.
A lot of them,
their
I didn't have a
story.
face to the name either.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'd say out of all of the interviews, the one that I was really excited to see was John Kirby, who was the guy who was the lawyer for the Donkey Kong case, because it was like, holy shit, they interviewed the guy, because when we talked about him, he had just passed away.
Right. Yeah.
And then there he was talking about it, and I was like,
so glad they got him in there.
Yeah.
I really am.
So that was amazing to see that, because I never thought I'd
Kirby's
see
namesake.
anything from him. There was just that one picture that was floating around the internet, and that was it. So now we had video footage. I was like, holy crap, that's awesome. There were some certain details to it that they discussed. I wouldn't say that all of it was new, but I also felt like there were certain stories they would touch on, or certain people they would talk to, and I wanted to know just a little bit more,
About that individual, yeah.
Yeah.
I did find myself wanting that too, especially with the first woman that they interviewed about winning, I guess, what could be considered one of the first gaming competitions.
Sure.
When you actually had to travel and go compete against each other. Because, I remember the little ones, on MTV and stuff like that, but it was interesting to see how it's come to be a stadium filler these days.
And see, I felt like that was kind of interesting about it, because they didn't juxtapose that specifically like that. They touched on these tournaments, but they really were the original esports tournaments. They would get all these people together who played these games and said, hey.
Still had to fly to California, New York, wherever,
And we never looked at them in that way. It was just like, oh, it's a gaming competition, and you're really good at playing a game, you do that. That's what esports is, you know? So they were doing that way back in the 80s, and it was just viewed differently. It wasn't seen as a sport per se. But how could you look at it any different?
Right.
It was really interesting, but again, they didn't juxtapose it the same equal term, but it was.
Right.
And even the events on MTV, they definitely could be seen the same way.
Right.
Because they were doing it. They just had a different way of showcasing it. And it was more, I guess they were more focused. The one that they showcased was more focused on Sega, right?
Yes, on that particular episode, yeah.
And, maybe the people that were playing the games, I can't remember the names. I remember Becky, though,
right?
Because she's like, my friends call me Becky, my enemies call me Rebecca, and it was like,
right.
Becky.
And then the graphic changed really fast to Becky. Yeah.
So I was like, got it. But maybe their stories aren't much more detailed than that. But when they spoke to her at first about what was going on, and then they stopped, because that was another interesting choice.
The way they bounced around, yeah.
Which I guess from a narrative perspective, it does kind of work, because they did kind of come back around to her after they covered some ground. Again, I guess it works to a point, but when they stopped talking to her, I didn't know we were going to come back to her, and I thought, so was that it? That was all she did? And I was just like, I felt like there was more we could have talked about there. And then we did come back, but I still felt like there was some...
Yeah.
What I feel like...
Or they tried to cover too much, and instead of they could have made it longer than 6 episodes or something. I don't know.
That's definitely the biggest criticism I have with it, is I felt like we were getting a very condensed version of a lot of this stuff, like a crash course, so to speak.
They threw a lot of info in a very short span of time and didn't delve too deep.
It felt like it really could have been expanded upon. It could have been more than just a limited series. And I understand it's a documentary, and maybe you want to try to limit what you're doing. You don't want to overburden everybody, but there's so many great stories and details, like the lawsuit. That's my biggest criticism, how they glossed over how they won that lawsuit. They did not mention the loophole they found, with
that
Universal.
Is true.
They just said...
they did kind of, but they didn't really,
but it's a great detail.
Like how,
And they just kind of were like, hey, figured it out and they won. That's how it came off to me, and I was like, but you whooshed it, they yada-yada'd over the best part.
Right? That's true.
So I was just like, all right, well, I mean, and it's their series, it's whatever they want to do,
Yeah.
but I feel like a lot of the details that were there, I felt like some good stuff was probably left out on the cutting room floor, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this was the best of the best, but I feel like there's so many details we missed.
Although I will admit, getting to talk to or see the developer behind E.T. explain a little bit more about it was interesting, because I don't know if I've ever read or anything, some quote for him as to what it is, but I love that they introduced him and he's like, I supposedly made the worst video game in history, and it wasn't on purpose, you know?
Yeah.
And just the fact that he pitched it to Spielberg. He's like, fine, can you do it in 5 weeks? And he even admits, I was a child full of hubris. Of course I can, you know, and then this is what we got. So it was just interesting. Also, just to think about like how far we've come, where they were making video games in the span of months. And we can't get our act together in 5 years.
Yeah.
You know, like, and I know that a lot of that goes into just the way graphics are nowadays and the way we're trying to tell the stories of these games, and just the expectations a lot of gamers have for it now are just way higher, you know, than it needs to be, used to be, insert whatever that means to you here. But that was the most interesting to me, where it was like, yeah, 6 months. People still play it today, you know?
But in a way, it feels like it should have worked this way. But I know we've talked about this too, where it feels like there's so many games. Think about back then what Atari did.
Right.
They flooded the market with all these garbage games. Nothing was good, and it crashed the market. And yet somehow we've not done that again, because we complain about it all the time. You know?
And there's way more now than ever, right?
Yeah.
Because like, especially once PC became more commonplace and it became actually easier to develop for, you know, now, Jesus Christ, yeah, like,
Yeah, it's just amazing. And that's where I defend Nintendo. They didn't even touch on this with Nintendo, is how they were trying to prevent another market crash, is when they did their seal of approval. There was that whole Tengen story that we covered, by the way, they never even touched on, you know, which would have been fantastic. That could have been a whole episode right there.
right?
You know, because that involved Atari trying to cut back in and, I don't know, sabotage, if anything, trying to get their hands back in the market. I mean, that could
Or
have been
even
your
like
seventh episode.
I feel like we never even really touched like today's consoles either, like PlayStation or Xbox. Like, I know they were trying to like leave us with that thought probably towards the end or whatever, but I mean, yeah, there was even like the whole merger, like where Nintendo and PlayStation were wanting to like, you know, do a thing for a while. Like, yeah, so there was some interesting things that I thought that they left out for sure.
And maybe we may have missed the point of what they were trying to do. Maybe show where the path was to go from how it started to where we are now.
Yeah.
Because even talking about, if you see how they break it down, how Atari started it, which we didn't even touch on, the first official console. We talked about that. I'm gonna go ahead and make a correction, so to speak. I mentioned in our Atari episode, and I'm getting dry mouth here, about what the first official console is. Now, according to my research, at that time, it was officially, based on my definition of what a console was, it was the Magnavox Odyssey. That's what I said in that episode. But according to this documentary, there was an entirely unreleased console that was created to play games. And that was the first official console. I can't remember what they called it, like the F7 or...
Yeah, like it literally like said something like console F or something. Pretty generic sounding,
Something like that. But they spoke about the man who created it, spoke to his family, I guess, because he had long since passed.
Yes, so the person who originally,
But it was that was a great thing. Like something like that, to unveil something that, I mean, I didn't even find it in my research, so that told me.
I don't remember it either, which makes me very upset, because this is the person who actually legitimately made where consoles could play more than just the game it shipped with, you know, or built into its...
Exactly.
And another good example of a big company coming in and taking it from a little guy, you know.
And burying history.
And burying it, yeah.
Because I don't feel like this is a... I don't feel like this is a detail that is unimportant. This was an African-American man in the 1970s whose work was just shoved under the rug and forgotten.
They really presented it like we just whitewashed that out altogether.
Fuck yeah, 100%. Of course they did.
Unfortunately, yeah.
So I honestly believe, that's exactly what happened. So I was I was surprised to see it, but once the history was presented, I was like, that doesn't surprise me one bit.
Like you hate to see it, but not surprised.
I'm not surprised. I hate that we have to not be surprised about this stuff. Right. But this is
we're getting hip to the ways.
Yeah, you know? we're very aware of things more than ever now. You did kind of mention this, and I felt like it was kind of a dull spot, which was the coverage of sports.
Yeah, games. That took some effort on my part to pay attention to. I'm not gonna lie, because I don't care about sports games at all. And then when they started talking about EA, I just went, ugh.
But in all fairness, I understand why they put it in, because it was integral. That moment was integral to where sports games are today.
No, I get it completely.
But it was, I was just like, I don't care.
It was just hard because I had no interest in the whole sports thing. But no, I get why it was put in there. And I mean, it is a big deal in gaming today. I mean, it really is. So I get why it was added, but I didn't care.
And I think I was trying to remember a lot of the notes that I was putting down here, because again, the first 2 episodes we kind of covered here. And I'm not saying don't go check that out if you've listened to those episodes. I'm not saying that at all. Go check it out. It's pretty cool, because Charles Martinet, we didn't even touch on that. He's the narrator of the documentary. If you don't know his name, he is the voice of Mario. He's not going, oh, look at this, and it's a Nintendo.
No, he's using his human voice.
Yeah. And he never even does an impression, which I was expecting at some point, like, hey, do Mario. And it was like, no, I don't want to get sued.
Right.
Nintendo.
Yeah, they're not playing around like they used to.
But the third episode, I think, was about RPGs. I think that was a very fascinating.
When I saw Roberta Williams coming up, I was like, oh my God, yes, we're going to do it. They didn't actually touch on her games. I wasn't sure if they'd go into detail about what game she created, but I was like, yeah. I played a lot of her stuff in the mid-90s or whatever. She told great stories.
Yeah. I felt like that was probably the one episode that I felt like I didn't have any knowledge of. Okay. And
I didn't know how it came to be. So that one actually was good.
That was a completely eye-opening, because it was like, okay, well, I just thought RPGs were there, but it does make sense that text-based adventures, computer games and stuff like that, D&D, obviously. I don't feel like that was not a question, but I feel like the text-based adventures from old PC games, that being kind of a process to, hey, let's do that, but let's put graphics on it. Right. And then we got it. And then that just leads to where we are now. And I was like, holy crap, that's...
It is cool to see the evolution of somebody looking at what somebody else has managed to do. And they're like, oh, but what if we... And then it just keeps... going and going and going into, like, because some of it is so ingenious when I'm sitting there looking at, because like programming today and coding today for the games is like so not even close to then. Like, even when they were talking about like the episode with what I would consider the first modders, obviously, you know, when they were talking about I don't remember their names because I never will ever in my life, but where they had the arcade machines in the college dorms, and that's how they were making money, was, you know, people came to play their video games, but people got to the point where they were too good at it and they weren't making money anymore because people just weren't playing it. So they installed chips into the systems to actually make the game harder or more skill based, which started to make people want to come back again. Then for a larger company to take notice, you think you're in trouble and you get flown out there. You know, it's like, oh, actually, can we just hire you now? Like, those little stories were what was interesting to me.
Yeah,
the human side of what they were going through when these things were happening, and the fact that we just didn't have any of these laws then, and a lot of them we ended up having to create laws because people were just like manipulating their game into what they wanted to do and then reselling it as their own business, you know.
Because even
that was interesting.
Yeah, I mean, even talking about the laws, I mean, the entire, I think it was the 5th episode, which was about fighting games, that and this was odd to me, and I don't know why, but looking back on it now, because I grew up in I mean, you did too, You know, we were there when fighting games emerged.
Yeah.
And I don't remember a time when they weren't there, you know? You know what I'm saying? I mean, I know there was a time that there wasn't a fighting game, but it was just like, holy crap. It was suddenly there, and then there were so many. It was like, yeah, they weren't there before. And Street Fighter was it, and I didn't realize it. And I was like, holy crap, that's interesting.
And 2 of all. That was what got it started over here. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But then, obviously, Mortal Kombat, Night Trap, games like that, they touched on those in the creation of the ESRB, which I thought
it was fun to see the old news clips, though, of like all of them losing their mind over this garbage. And you know, like not a single one of them played the game, saw probably even 1 ounce of the game. They're going to court about how this was the worst thing. That was a fun story, actually, for me to get to hear him from Night Trap, honestly. Because, I admit, there were some details there that I didn't know because, like, come to find out, he had pitched basically this whole other idea. Yeah. And because he was with Hasbro, and Hasbro's like, but you can't do anything on screen that could be easily recreated at home. Mm-hmm. Was it kind of along the lines of what the rules were? So like whatever you showed on screen, it had to be ridiculous and out there and very unrecreatable, you know, or whatever the word is. And so it was like it sounded like he had this really cool like movie idea to pitch. And they're like, but we can't make them this way. So we got to make it look like this. And he's like, okay, so they're vampires, but they don't suck blood. No. We can't show them actually sucking blood, but you can show. So he's like, I came up with this hook idea that went around their neck and drew the blood out. And he goes, and in hindsight, that actually seemed worse. Yeah. You know? And so now you have vampires who aren't strong, who can't suck your blood, who don't walk fast, that are in trash bags because I wasn't even allowed the costumes I wanted to put them in. And I'm just like, oh God. They screwed you over. I almost feel like I would have just been like, you know what? I'm just going to go make a movie. Yeah. Like, this is not my idea anymore at all. But it's so funny when you hear these stories now where you were like, it's garbage. And then you hear why. And you're like, oh. It really was just working against you, huh? But, I mean, I'm forever arguing about how video games makes us all violent. Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, because that argument gets so... It never gets old, right? But see,
so much fun.
And the fact that they even touched on that, I'm really surprised they didn't touch on FMVs. Like
in more detail?
Well, I mean, I know that they aren't like a booming
yeah. Well, even at the time, it was. I wouldn't know if you could call it booming. Like it was a medium, you know, that just didn't do well.
It would have been interesting just to kind of touch on them just a little bit, like the idea, like what spawned that on to say, hey, let's make an interactive movie. How are we going to do this? How can we change that? But
flesh that idea out.
They didn't even touch on. I mean, as they're talking about these games,
I guess I'm not real surprised because it's still such a niche genre that I don't know that it actually made any kind of huge enough waves that outside of Night Trap, making everyone think we were just attacking everybody. But
I'm surprised that they didn't. I mean, as they touched on these, how they never talked about how there were certain PC games that just went under the radar and were never paid attention to like these games were because they were on consoles.
And they were like super bizarre and weirdo. Like Harvester, I still feel like would have been worse than Night Trap, really.
Some of the stuff in that, oh my God. I mean,
but you're right, it didn't come to console, so it probably wasn't mainstream enough to really make waves, you know?
But yeah, there's a lot of stuff in that you're just like, no.
Dude, the mom tried to sleep with him.
Yeah, that's weird.
Like, that's not a good idea at all.
Weren't there even, like, some very racist and homophobic remarks?
Oh, so much. Because it like, 90s, whatever, I'm not going to have the argument about it in the time or whatever, but it was in that time. And, oh, my God, yeah.
Yeah.
I even remember talking to a general who was just a stump.
Yeah.
He had no arms, no legs.
He's a stump. I remember that, yep.
Yeah. Like, what is happening? Like... But yet Night Trap.
But speaking of the PC market, 6th episode, they talked about how id Software, you know, creators of Doom and Wolfenstein and stuff like that, the first-person shooter, which we all know and love, how they started, how all that came about because they hacked a Nintendo. Because I didn't realize this. This was just mind blowing to me that a PC could not side scroll.
Right.
Like a
yeah, I
console.
didn't know
like,
that either.
What?
It
like,
just was some
didn't make any
snot-nosed
sense.
kid to like send it to him later, like, oh, this, you know,
Yeah.
it's just kind of how they made it sound. And like, how the crap did you pick, you know?
Yeah, but it was mind boggling to me. It's like, why couldn't? Because PCs are just monsters now. You know, they're just like these beasts. That
You got to
can do
remember
anything.
though, and they did at least explain it. Like back in the day, they were basically like word processors,
Sure.
right? Like you know, people typed their papers, accounting, whatever the crap that it did. You know.
Yeah, but back then, not to be able to scroll like it was like mind boggling to me. It was
Yeah.
like, holy crap, that's interesting. Okay, but
Like
then
that's what cracked the code to us having FPS.
yeah, and that's all they needed to do because they needed to have the screens move. You know, just like they do on consoles, and it was like that's all it took is you just needed to figure that out, and that's what led to all that essentially, in
Yeah.
a nutshell. So that was fascinating, you know, just to hear those guys talk about that creation, where that led to. It's a fascinating documentary, but again, Crash Course. I feel like there's just
It's definitely going to
details.
leave you wanting to look into some of this stuff more,
Sure.
I feel, if you were really interested in it. So they're definitely giving you the brief rundown and great sources on where to go to get the rest of the information if you want, because
Sure.
you've got the names, you've got the stories. You could probably easily find them out if you wanted more detail. But yeah, There were certain moments where that's what I found interesting, or even when they were talking about like the first arcades, that the yen was just even low, like just their yen coin.
Yeah.
Hard to get because so many people were filling into arcades and filling those machines, you know, like little details like that where you're like, I wasn't around when that was going on or live in that country. So that's kind of interesting to hear about, you know? But yeah, the only thing that made me kind of sad throughout the whole thing, and it's whatever you want to call me for it, but just like the way that they kept even explaining how they marketed games to women was just like so frustrating, because now you could see where for some reason they just started it off in their mind assuming we wouldn't want to play the same kinds of things. So they like spent too much time and energy into trying to create games that they thought women wanted to play, like cooking games or stuff like that, where just like we play the same things. And it was just kind of frustrating to see that mentality was just right there from the get-go. And not that I was surprised that it was. I feel like it's been perpetuated over time and gate kept and fed into because of this whole thing. And I don't honestly think when he's telling this story that he was thinking he was telling anything wrong. Because again, you're a product of your generation, right? So in his mind, he was like, I'm including them. When it was like, just get out of our way of the machine sometimes. You know, like that's all we were actually asking for. And then for Miss Pac-Man to come be born from this kind of thing and then have to interview all these, she's so cute. And yes, there are women like that. Do you think dudes don't want to play games like that, though, too, sometimes? I mean, if I look through all y'all Moba's phone and I find one freaking cooking game, I'm just going to say. So it's like little things like that I see still today. Like I hear from it then and I'm like, okay, then, but why are we still fighting so hard for it even today for the same exact thing? Like I'll never understand how that can't just be, we are humans who game.
right. But
Quit
in all
calling us girl gamers, we're gamers. Quit like putting those titles on us that just it doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense to me.
But in all fairness, you have to admit the inclusion of Chun-Li wasn't to include women, according to the creator. He says, why not put a woman in there? Women want to play this too.
Right.
So there you go.
Yeah.
And to me, that was just like, holy crap.
You could see pieces of where people were like, wait a minute.
Yeah. It's like,
You know?
what-
And then
put a
when he
woman in
said, he's like, women want to play women characters. And I said to myself, I was like, dudes want to play women characters too. Are you kidding me? Most of the dudes I know play the women characters first. Like, personal experience.
Right.
But like, I'm like,
But I mean, why not include them? You know, that was
Right.
kind of his reasoning. He's like, yeah, put a woman in there. Yeah. They want to
Yeah.
play. Why
Right.
not?
And we do. We just want
And
to
it
play
was
the
like,
same
great.
things. Everybody likes different types of games.
So I guess it was nice to see that there was somebody with that mentality back then, that it's not just something new. There were people, and there's probably more, who was just like, why do we have to cater to one gender or the other? Just make a game that they all want to play.
Right. If it's
You
a good
know?
game, we'll play it, you
Yeah.
know? Like,
So there you go.
and there's different genres for different people that like different things.
Yeah.
I just do hope we kind of get to the point where just like the whole gatekeeping of what we feel constitutes a real gamer, or that we have to gender what type of gamer we even are. I just can't wait for the day for that to just go away. Like, well, even if you play Candy Crush, you're a gamer. Fine. Yeah. Like, why do you feel like that's an insult to you being a gamer as well? I don't. Just let them do what they want to do.
And that could be an interesting documentary in and of itself. Like, what perpetuated this idea that gaming was a boys' club? Because clearly, even back then... I think
it was marketed that way.
I mean, clearly back then, they even said Pac-Man was a game that women enjoyed playing. But do we know that that's just the only game they gravitated toward? They didn't specify that they didn't play Space Invaders or Pong or whatever else that everybody else was playing. But that's just the one they happen to gravitate towards. Mm-hmm. So why did we just assume that only guys want to play games? Because for the longest time growing up, I did have that mindset. Yeah. I'll admit that. I was like, it wasn't that
girls... I did too. I always thought I was weird for wanting to play them.
But see, that it was just this weird thing of I didn't know any girls that played video games, so I just assumed they didn't want to play. Like, they felt it was beneath them, or it was just something they just didn't want to do. Like, it wasn't girly enough or something like that. Whatever my child brain thought at the time. So when I did actually meet a girl who played a video game, I was like, holy shit. It was like a unicorn.
You exist.
I was like, what is this? And I just thought it was weird because I didn't know any better.
Right.
But
it was very heavily marketed that way. Because, I mean, especially like today, we're a little bit better about, imposing whatever we feel like you're supposed to act like because of a gender or your sex or whatever. Like, we're getting better about assuming that it has to be this way or that way, depending on how you feel or whatever. But like back then, we were still very much Barbies go to girls, rough house play goes to boys. And when the video games were coming out, they're a little bit more violent and everything. Look at the commercials from back then. You didn't see chicks in there playing these games either. It was just like a bunch of boys going around roughhousing with each other over a controller and stuff. So it was very much sold to us in that vein. And being in that time frame where we still had the girly stuff and the boy-y stuff, that, we kind of got just left out because of just the assumption that we're too girly and wouldn't want to shoot things or be that way,
Sure.
And I think it's just taking forever to get out of that mindset that it's a girl or boy. It doesn't matter if I think it's fun. I just think it's fun as a person. My genitalia had nothing to do with me gravitating towards that game. So... yeah, I honestly think it's just we've got to start just doing better about breaking free of all the stuff we've just been taught. And like we were mentioning at the top of the 2 hours now, just because that's how it's always been done doesn't mean that's how we should keep doing it. So that was interesting for them to dive into a little bit. You're right. I would actually like to see more of a documentary kind of diving into that. Not that I think it would matter in the long run. I would just find it kind of interesting to see where it started. And it did make me happy to see that, more women were involved in it. We've been there from the beginning, but
I mean,
we just aren't the ones that get put out there when the good ideas roll or anything like that. It always gets hidden under some other term, some other name.
Obviously.
Right.
But we definitely recommend it's worth a watch if you love gaming. If you don't know anything about the industry back then, or even if you do, it is fun to just kind of reminisce, especially if you grew up in that time, seeing some of those commercials and things like that. It was oh my God, yes.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
It was such a blast from the past, so to speak. So
and I don't know that I ever realized that the Nintendo gun was actually just called a zapper.
I didn't realize it was a gun in Japan, looked like an actual legit gun.
Yeah.
I was like, okay.
I was just like a zapper. It wasn't just the Nintendo. I guess they weren't going to put that on there. Yeah, the zapper. I'm like, I had it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Me too.
Duck Hunt, man.
Classic.
I feel like that's the only game I played with it. There probably was more, but that's the only memory that sticks in my head. And of course, you always cheated by just walking up to the screen and pointing directly at the bird. Mm-hmm. Screw that, sitting back far. And, well, as far as you could go, everything was corded, and they weren't very long, so you kind of still had to sit on the floor. But, yeah.
See, I had 2 other games. Well, I didn't have 2 other games. I had one other game that used the zapper, and then there was a second game that I played a lot with the zapper, but I didn't own it. and they were very unique. One was called Hogan's Alley, and it was kind of like a. I know there's a term for it, but I can't remember what it is at the moment. It's essentially the screen would scroll, and then kind of like one of those police shooters where the criminal shows up and then the good guy shows up.
Oh,
And
yeah,
you
yeah.
gotta shoot the right thing. It's kind
Where
of
they just kind of pop up all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Ting.
So it's very much in that vein. And then the other one was called Gumshoe, which you talk about a challenge with the zapper. It's a game where the character moves on his own, and you have to get him over the obstacles, making him jump by using the zapper. So you shoot at him and he'll move and jump, but you have to balance everything out because it's platforming, pitfalls, everything.
Just
So
all of this tomfoolery.
Yeah, it's a nuts game. But
I
it was
would
fun.
say at least if you're younger, check it out just to see how it evolved and where it started from. Because I know y'all look at it and be like, ew, but it was like, no, these were like great.
Yeah.
These were great. I remember sitting around having a ton of fun. You know, when you finally started to get multiplayer, oh my God, it was all couch co-op, you know, but yeah. I played the crap out of those, man. But
it will hopefully help you respect what you have now.
right. Just definitely appreciate it because the way it's evolved, holy crap.
Yeah.
I don't know that we would have saw that coming then. Heck, probably thought it just completely folded all together in the 90s since it wasn't really doing that great. And then finally, you had like PlayStation, Xbox bringing some stuff back in. PC started to actually look like a better contender. More people started to actually have a PC in the home. Mm-hmm. And there you go.
And even think about the transition. I know they didn't go this deep into it, but graphically, when we started seeing graphics improve and everything, like how that just... our minds just blew because I remember the very first time I saw Super Mario.
About 99, 2000 when we started to actually see like human shape. You know, like they didn't have faces yet, but
but even like Super Mario 64, just that transition to 3D was just like, oh my God, because it was no longer flat. It was no longer 2D. It was like you have all of this you can run. It didn't look, I mean, by comparison today, you're just like, okay, it looks dated. But then it was just.
Oh, I can remember. God. Dude, this is like going to be silly for me. I can remember the transition from like Sims 1 to Sims 2. And the first time I saw it, I like literally sat there and went, whoa. Like, it's like I can turn all the way around the character. It's not just this flat top down pancake. You know what I mean? Like, it was just. I remember being blown away. Like, look at all the detail. They have faces, personalities, and I can do a 360 with the camera around the entire character. Like, you couldn't do that, you know? And yeah, so that's why I do feel bad for the younger generation. Like, just having those moments of being like, oh my God.
Yeah.
You've never seen it. Like, it never would have imagined it could have been that good because it's always just been good for you, you know?
I honestly don't know if we'll ever have a moment like that again.
I mean, who knows? Like the way technology goes, but I know you and I have had this discussion. Like, how does it get better? Like, holy crap!
I don't know, and that's
I don't know either.
Like it won't. We won't have those moments again because I feel like we've hit a
unless
pinnacle.
VR really starts to take off. Like that's the next thing I could think of is if VR can be less niche. Once I think VR gets rid of the screen door effect 100% and those headsets become a little bit more light, not as overbearing, heavy, bulky. I think that would probably be the next holy crap. But that's just my speculation. Like once you actually get them feeling like everything's crystal clear and you're in the moment, damn, that'll be huge.
I could agree with that 100%. That would be the next evolutionary state of gaming. Once you make that as
that
awesome
would blow
as
my
everything
mind
else,
anyway.
yeah. I want to feel so immersed that I lose where I'm at.
Exactly. Yeah. No, that might be. So definitely keep a check on it. I mean, I feel like people really are starting to try to tap into VR a little bit more, even though Facebook keeps trying to ruin it. But whatever, that's a whole other conversation. But I think it could get better. I think they really are working on it. So
it's definitely come a long way, and I do enjoy getting into the VR headset a lot more than it used to be. Let's just put it that way. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah, check it out. I guess that's our show for the day, eh?
We came back with a vengeance.
We did. We did come back. As you guys are used to, you probably see the 2 hours and go, oh, yeah, no, they're back. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We had a conversation, damn it.
We did. Let us know what you think, though, guys. You know, like I said, we're going to be playing around with some stuff here. Hopefully you'll find it entertaining. And even if it sucks, maybe that'll entertain you, too. I mean, there are things so bad it's entertaining, and you got to tell people about it. And maybe we could be that person for you. I don't know. But that's our show. You can hit us up sometime on Twitter at Super Mega Crash, or send an email at supermegacrash@gmail.com. You can find us on Instagram to view all that weekly icon art that Steven puts all of his time and love into. You can support the show by liking and leaving reviews on your preferred platform, and even going to patreon.com/Pencil and Paper Productions. Chip in that $5. Watch the first 4 episodes of Super Mega Crash Adventures, will ya? And you can also tell your friends to search Super Mega Crash Brothers Turbo on Apple Podcasts, Podbean, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, and even youtube.com/Pencil and Paper Productions. And thank you for listening. I'm Lacey Finley.
I'm Stephen White.
And you could join us again next time, Super Mega Crash siblings. But until then,
game on.
This has been a Pencil and Paper Podcast Network production.